Everybody needs to realize the truth of the matter that we no longer have a country. And when we looked in South Africa, we tried to find out who owns the most data on South Africans. And that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that South Africans are learning the latest, most brilliant cutting-edge tech. They said, we want a president who goes live on Instagram.
Of course.
They said, we want a president who goes live on TikTok.
Right.
We need AI to be in Zulu. So that a Zulu person can say, we're ChatGTP. Right.
Today in the studio, we have a man who needs no introduction. And I've always wondered, in Africa, a lot of young people look at politics like it's something for older people, including myself. So when I first saw that you're running for president, I was like, what? He's so bold. What inspired you to I think it's time for me to get into politics?
So I think the most important thing about it was really where the world is today. We saw reports coming out saying that 40% of the information we have today was basically 40% new information coming in. So basically what that means is everything we know today, next year, if we don't increase our knowledge by 40% of what we already know, we're out of date. And that's been happening for a couple of years now, where data scientists are saying new information is coming in. So it quickly made me realize that the most perfect people to lead are young people because they're able to learn new information and adapt with it. When you look in the olden days, these people used to deal with newspapers, they used to deal with trains, today we're dealing with flying cars, we're dealing with social media, we're dealing with the fourth industrial revolution, and it brings so many different things to it. So it was basically the realization that the most perfect person to lead is a young person who understands where the world is going.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that because in Africa, the youngest president that I know of so far, it's the president of Ethiopia. I think he's 45 years old. So there are two presidents in Africa that are below the age of 50. It's the Ethiopian president and the Madagascar president. The president of Madagascar is 47 and the president of Ethiopia is 45. So that's the youngest so far I know, unless my research failed me. But you are quite young. You are 29, I think?
Yes, 29 years old.
I got that one right. But you are like, we are going to do this. So that is quite amazing. So far, how has the response been to people when you announced that you're running for president?
I think a lot of people that know me personally have been very encouraging. A lot of them have said, you know what, you're the perfect person for the job. I've got a few friends of mine that said, why did it take you so long to decide on this? So that's what a few people have said. A few cautious people, family members saying, this is dangerous. It's risky. You're risking your life. Politics is a dirty game. And as well as a few people sort of coming out and saying, this is an answer to many prayers. People saying that for many years, they've always wanted a change in Africa. And they see that this is the change that it's actually going to bring. So it's been a really great journey. And, Arise South Africa is not just me.
Right.
It's a whole collective of young people. So I just form one of those young people that are doing this. But it's a whole collective where we're each chipping in and making sure that we bring this country or we change this country into its perfect self.
Right. I knew you from, different events in relation to technology that we have attended together or we're speaking there together. And so here you are. And I remember back when the president appointed the Fourth Industrial Commission for the presidency, you were part of the team. And I met you in one of the sessions that you had as well, you with the rest of the teams. I don't know, is it still existing today?
So what happened with that presidential commission is that we started doing the work. We put in a lot of effort, but nothing came out of it.
I suppose.
When we submitted the work, the response of the government was very much non-interest. So nothing really came out of it. A lot of people that were since part of that commission have left. They've moved on. And even till date, we still have so many problems that could have been solved by implementing those solutions that we wrote down.
Because when you're looking at some of the problems that the country has, load shedding is a big one. It's something that has gone international. There should be technological solution to what the country is facing in terms of load shedding, right? And secondly, you look at, for example, grannies that have to queue and collect their grants in person. There should be a technological solution for that. But if a government is not interested in solving problems, even for their older citizens, to take care of them, but allow them come and stand in the cold, what was the whole point of the commission to begin with, if the solutions were not to be accepted?
Very true. And I think one of the things that we realized is that whenever we spoke to politicians about technological changes, a lot of them felt that we were taking away their money. They sort of felt like if we're going to have artificial intelligence monitoring our spending, how are we going to be able to eat, or how are we going to be able to get a cool drink out of these amounts? So a lot of them have been very shy of technology, but also it's an age gap.
Right.
Remember, they're all in the 60s, they're all in the 70s.
Right.
To be honest, they have a phobia for technology. A lot of them are very much afraid of what it can do, you know. A lot of them are very anti-technology as well. So we sit with this big problem in Africa where the leaders are basically living in their own world that doesn't exist.
Right.
We've all moved. The whole world is in the fourth industrial revolution. Yet our leaders are still in the first or even in the second. I mean, electricity is a first, second industrial revolution technology, you know.
Right.
So a lot of the problems we've got in South Africa are because our leaders are just not where they're supposed to be. And the reason that continues to happen is because we continue to vote for these people because of a Nelson Mandela stature, where people still hold on to the fact that because Nelson Mandela did this, we're still voting. But what we don't realize is that if Nelson Mandela was still alive today, Nelson Mandela would not have stood for any of these principles. Nelson Mandela would not have stood for 300 billion, which the South African government loses every single year to corruption. He would have never stood for that. We have over 130 people getting raped in South Africa daily. Nelson Mandela would have been never a part of that. We've got 83 people being murdered every single day. So people don't realize that the principles that Nelson Mandela stood for, and these are diehard ANC people, they don't realize that those principles are not being done today. And it was the likes of Bishop Tutu who came out and he said that, you know, if this government does to you what we saw the apartheid government do in terms of oppressing people, he said, make sure that you take them out. And what we need to realize is that they've done what they could and they took the baton that far. People like Nelson Mandela, what they fought for and what they were sent to fight for was freedom. However, you know, when you look in the Bible, there's similar stories of how Moses got them out of Egypt. But it was Joshua who took them into the promised land. So there's always that different leader that comes in and does the next area. And, you know, that's the era that we believe we want to usher South Africa in, an era where the potential is getting unlocked. It's a rich country. People are enjoying the benefits of being a South African, and we're seeing prosperity for all.
Right. When you mentioned the age gap thing, I'm reminded of a story I heard. This happened in Nigeria, by the way. So a young person with his technological solution approached the government in terms of backing up their systems in the cloud. Like we were having the conversation before the camera started rolling about the cloud, right? So when he finished his presentation, there were a couple of ministers in the room, and one of the ministers asked him, "This is your cloud. When it rains, what happens?" That was quite a story, you know, that was trending on Twitter back then. But questions like that gives us a glimpse of the mindset that some of our African leaders have, right? So it's not just, I think I said that to say it's not just a South African thing, it's an African thing, you know, where most of our leaders are really behind when it comes to technology. And yes, the age gap is an issue, but I think that the bigger problem is more of a mindset, because I think there are other countries that have older presidents, but they are very open-minded when it comes to, okay, where is the future going? How is technology impacting the world? And how can we solve some of the problems we're having in society with technology? Some of the presidents do have that type of open mindset, but in Africa and South Africa, I think we have a different type of problem. So what are you planning to do different than what the other presidents have been doing in terms of innovation?
So I think that the first and most important thing is to realize what Africa is going through and to describe what it means.
Right.
A lot of the times people think that we are very anti-old people.
Right.
You know, people think that South Africa does not see old people or people that are of age of the value that they have.
Right.
And that's completely different.
Right.
We do see their value. And where we see the role of old people playing, we see that role being advisors to the new government. We don't see them doing the work. We don't, because we understand that if you're a 60-year-old man, you're supposed to be taking care of children, your grandchildren. So where we want to place them, we want to place them in an advisory role to say, come advise, come oversee, come guide, come inspire, come do the things that only a person of your age can do because you've lived that long. Come cheer us on. Come say, hey, we don't like this point, come give us advice. That's what we want. But when we come to leading, it's important for us to realize that Africa, specifically South Africa, we are behind. You know, when you're running a 100 meters race or a 400 meters race, and the gun is shot and everybody's sprinting, everybody's running. And, you know, all the other countries, France, America, Singapore, Dubai, they're all leading.
Right.
And here you are as Africa, you're right at the back.
Right.
And you need to change things. Do you put in a 70-year-old man to run that race? Or do you choose a 20-year-old who's still got energy to run? You choose the 20-year-old. And that 20-year-old is able to sprint and catch up. And that's the fight we're fighting here to say, we are so far behind. You know, you travel and, you know, you've traveled, I've traveled. You travel to any other country, America, Dubai, Singapore, in Europe, and you feel like you're in a foreign place. And that's not supposed to be, because we're supposed to be a nation that is, if there was a gap, the gap must be small, but there's not supposed to be a gap at all, you know. We're supposed to be leading. And yet we find ourselves in the situation. So our perspective is to say, let's put the young person to run. Let them catch up, because that's our duty.
Yeah.
When we come in as a Rise, we're not really coming in to keep things the way that they are. You know, you asked, what are we going to do? We're really going to be using the Internet of Things, big data analytics, machine learning, robotics, quantum computing, biotechnology, nanotechnology, systems thinking, machine-to-machine communication, all these technologies, AI, blockchain, we're going to be using them. And a lot of people have often said to us to say, can you start by fixing the electricity crisis? Can you start by, and I said to them that when something has been burnt down to the ground, which has happened in South Africa, everything is gone. Everybody needs to realize the truth of the matter that we no longer have a country. We can't still think that there's still something on the table. Everything is gone. Businesses are under because of load shedding. There's darkness all over. Our health system doesn't work. Our education system is flawed because the graduates can't make a living. Everything is gone. How do you rebuild? Do you rebuild by using the same systems and thinking that got us the previous results that crashed and burned? Or do you build anew? And that's what we're doing as a Rise. We're coming in to say we're building anew. We're not going to be building on the systems that exist. Those systems are already faulty. We're seeing them today. They're shaken. We're building a whole new system. This is a whole new system, a whole new way of thinking. And that's why we're able to say we're going to be building with these technological things, because we're doing things completely different. So everything we're going to be bringing is going to be backed up and supported by technology, research, by AI. We're really going to make sure that our government becomes a government that finds its solution within technology. Because remember, we have the beautiful opportunity to rebuild. Other countries can't rebuild because there's already something that's been built. You know, you can't go to Dubai and say we want to rebuild. They'll say, what do you mean rebuild? We've already built, you know? So here we have nothing. We have absolutely nothing, and we're going to rebuild and we're going to build. And when I say we have nothing, it's in the context as compared to the other countries.
I do understand.
Because I think a lot of people see what's going on and they say, we've done well. We've got a road, we've got this. And the truth of the matter is, compared to the rest of the world, if you're getting 1% in the test and there's somebody who's getting 100%, you have nothing. Yeah, we must accept that you have nothing. So that's really what we mean. We really want to make sure that we sort this out and we fix it, because it's in us fixing this thing that we get to then compete with the rest of the world properly and not as slaves.
So for people who might be wondering, what are we rebuilding? South Africa is fine. Like you mentioned, we've got roads. I think that roads don't apply when we are talking about the type of era in which we're living now. The focus is on digital infrastructures, not building roads per se, you know. And where the world is going without digital infrastructures in place, the right digital infrastructure in place, there's just no way that a country can compete, you know, with other countries that have put those infrastructures in place. You know, there should be the idea of, when I look at the school system, for example, the education system, for example, the idea of kids still writing on pen and paper. I mean, that's outdated to begin with. Which organization today, just look around, or for anyone watching, you know, look within your organization, who is still going to work with a pen and a paper? What people carry to work are laptops or iPads or whatever they are carrying. Everything is more digital, but we're training our children with pen and paper. They transition from that system and they have to go into offices and write and use computer systems. Sometimes it is during internship that some of them will have an access to a computer. That is completely not acceptable for the era in which we are living. What are your solutions to some of these things in terms when it comes to education?
So I think, education is so important because when you look at where the world is today, you really find out that data, which is the word I want to use for education,
Right.
is the new gold. We really found a time in the past where everybody was all about finding gold. Everybody said, we want to look at gold, we want to get gold. We all know how precious gold is.
Right.
But gold is no longer gold in today's world. It's now data, right? Because AI uses data, can show you how to become more profitable. And when we looked in South Africa, we tried to find out who owns the most data on South Africans. We asked this question to the president and government to say, where does the data of South Africans live? The answer is Facebook. Facebook knows the most about South Africans. Facebook is not South African.
Exactly.
Facebook is an American company.
Right.
When you look at the second person who owns the most data, it's TikTok. TikTok knows South Africans more than the government knows South Africans. And we're really finding out that these countries are shaping their agendas and influencing us. With the TikTok algorithm in Africa, they're able to control the Facebook algorithm. They're able to control everything because we don't control any data. And that's where we want to start. We want to start by controlling data and ensuring that every single South African learns online. That's the first and foremost thing. Because what we've learned is that we don't have enough time to train our teachers to become as good as teachers in the US, our lecturers to become as good as lecturers in Harvard. We don't have that time. Yes, we're going to do it, but we don't have the time. So we want to turn the teachers into more facilitators, where they will also be in the classroom to make sure that every child is disciplined. But on the screen will be a professional, not a human being. It'll be an AI bot that will be teaching the students the most relevant cutting edge information at that time. Literally, a lesson could be updated the same time. Because remember, if 40% of new information is coming into this world every single year, new.
Right.
Textbooks can't keep up.
Right, they can't.
There's no way that they can keep up. So what can keep up is learning algorithms. And that's what we're going to be teaching our young people information. When they get to school, they're going to be learning latest information. You know what it does to a young person when they see the latest car? Have you seen a young person when you say to them, this is the latest Mercedes-Benz or latest Ferrari or latest Lamborghini? They go crazy. They want to learn everything. They are ready to say, break this thing up. I want to see how it was built. This is the latest. Young people, you give a young person the latest iPhone. They will not eat trying to figure out what's going on because it's the latest.
Absolutely.
Our brains are wired to receive new things and learn and process them. And that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that South Africans are learning the latest, most brilliant cutting edge tech. And when they learn that, sorry to interject, when they learn that, we want to also make sure that we incentivize them to continue learning. Now, this is financial incentives. What does this then mean? This means that while you get your 350 grant, if you could learn a degree of the fourth industrial revolution, like blockchain coding, we will give you an extra 1,000 rand upon your grant. And now we have people in the township saying, my thing is I must learn this blockchain thing because listen, if you pass this blockchain thing, you get an extra 1,000 rand. What are we doing? We're conditioning the minds of South Africans to say there is profit in knowledge. And now we have every single South African studying this blockchain thing, and it's a trend. And all over the whole country, everybody's saying, I need to be a data analyst. And people are saying, what is going on? And they're saying, the moment you're a data analyst, the government gives you 10,000. Now remember, we're giving them 10,000 because we know that they will not take the 10,000 because there are jobs of $10,000 for every data analyst. So automatically we create this culture amongst young people where you get paid to learn certain things, not everything, things that are in demand, things that will cause the nation to become a leader. Now young people are going to school. Parents are now saying, listen, I need to make sure my child is learning this thing because the next door neighbor's child learned it and became rich. What did they learn? They learned blockchain coding. Where? Online. Listen, give me the website. Kid, you will be learning. Parents will literally be making sure that their children are learning this thing because they've seen the financial incentive that comes with it. Instead of us just taking kids to university, they go through 3 years of NAFSAS. Do you know how much the government spends on a student? It's over 300,000 rand that government is spending. Way more for a student just to get a degree to sit at home.
And a degree that is probably not relevant for the world in which you are living today.
Why can't this be online learning?
I recently was called to give a talk to a school. It's more like grade 5 to 7 or so. But these young kids, I asked the question, the normal question that people usually ask, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And I was very intentional about asking that question. And all the kids that were in the room, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a dancer, I want to be a model, I want to be an engineer. Okay, it sounds all good, right? But then I pointed out the flaw in all of these things, not blaming the kids, by the way, pointing out the flaw in the education system. These kids in 2023, none of them could mention, I want to be a digital marketer when I grow up. None of them could say, I want to be an AI expert or a data analyst or a machine learning or a smart home instructor or developer or smart city builder or any of these things that this is where the world is going, right? But kids are still stuck answering the same questions the way my parents did when they were asked that question back in the day, because that's how people answered. So where is the question I was asking was, where is the innovation in the education system? We have not imparted into our kids that mindset that the world has become digital. In 2023, there is no one kid in the classroom who responded with anything that was linked to technology or digitization. And I spoke mostly to the parents because parents were also there. I'm like, as much as the school system is failing our kids in this area, us as parents living in a digital age, raising kids that are going through our smartphones. Like sometimes if my son operates on my laptop, I will have to come back and be like, hey, can you put it back the way it was? Because I don't even know what it is. Like they are that good with digital systems, but then they are being raised in an education system where the future is still about being, the same thing that our parents were in the past. Nothing has improved to open the minds of the children to understand that careers are changing. Careers are evolving. It doesn't mean that tomorrow there will be no doctors, by the way, but it needs to be taken into place that my smartwatch now can tell me so many things that I needed a doctor to tell me before. This is how the profession is changing. Are we teaching our kids these changes? So you mentioning that the Arise intend to digitize education, I think that is very powerful, but there's a process to get there right.
Yeah, and I think, part of the process, a lot of people have basically said to us to say, you're dreaming too big. And they've basically said to us, stop this dreaming too big because people will believe it and they will be disappointed, And I asked the person to say, what's the biggest problem? And they said, there's no internet in the rural areas. There's load shedding. Right. So how will these kids go to school when there's blackouts? Right. And I said, I'm so grateful that you asked that question because we have Starlink.
Right.
Starlink is Elon Musk putting satellites up in the sky. And when we say it's Elon Musk, it could be Mpho Dagada putting satellites up in the sky as well.
Right.
And you're beaming internet into every village and every school in South Africa. Yeah. No load shedding can stop it.
Absolutely.
It functions without your own electricity from load shedding. You put in solar together with other electricity in the schools, on the roofs, very simple, to power those devices, and learning can happen irregardless of load shedding. So the solutions we have are very clear and well thought out of. The people that don't want us to implement them are people that function by making people fear change.
Right.
And that's one thing that South Africans, I don't understand. It's like an enemy has done this. Because when you look at South Africa and you look on a Sunday, everybody in South Africa, majority of South Africans go to church. Stats even come out to say 86% of South Africans identify with one form of Christianity.
Right.
And one of the teachings of Christianity is faith.
Right.
Believing. A lot of South Africans want to believe. They even force themselves to believe that South Africa can never change. And I asked myself the question to say, is it perhaps that the pastors or the leaders of faith are not teaching the gospel as it should be taught? Because when you looked at the life of Jesus, this was a man that changed everything wherever he went. Even to the party where there was no wine, the man created wine.
Absolutely.
So this was a man who dealt with making sure that wherever he went, there was effective change happening. And those that believed were able to enjoy those changes, right? And the beautiful thing about South Africa is we are already on ground zero. We're already on the floor. You can't say, but what about the textbooks that have been printed? Sorry, they don't work. We're already on ground zero. So why are we still trying to hold on to things that don't work when there's new ways of doing things?
Absolutely.
There is absolutely no need for us to be continuing to be spending so much money on NAFSIS when our graduates are unemployed.
Absolutely.
Why not look at making sure that online learning is available and financial incentives are put there? I'm telling you, education will be like a drug.
Right.
Every single young person will be looking, I need this blockchain. How much did you say you get? After your third year, government will give you 10,000 rand a month.
Right.
Every young person will literally be after it. When they are failing, you literally find young people standing in a corner saying, Echo, please, I need to understand this past paper. How do you code this thing? How do you? Because what we're then doing is we're then creating a culture where financial reward is based on what are you doing that is relevant for where the country is growing. Right now, it's the skewed way around. So that's a lot of the things that a lot of people miss out. They miss out on the fact that innovation must happen.
It has to.
And for it to happen, what we're basically doing is we're rebuilding our country because we're putting things that were supposed to be put. A lot of people like to believe that, you know, as young people or as RIs, we're coming up with new things. We're coming up with, these are things that the whole world is doing. The only issue is that they haven't traveled to go and see what the rest of the world is doing. Dubai, which got civilized way after we were civilized or we were modern, never started with classrooms that you're talking about. So these classrooms, you're saying we must prefab the classrooms, do this, send out textbooks, print out a textbook syllabus. This has never happened anywhere else. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're coming in like a wind to say things must change. And we've decided that they must change with us. And we're sticking with that change and sticking to those guns.
You know, to dial back on the point you made, how fast the world is changing per year and the new knowledge that is being added yearly to us. Now, when we just look back 5 or 6 months back, when, for example, a platform like ChatGPT done by OpenAI, right, it was launched on the 30th of November in 2022. We are in May or so. I don't even remember which month we are now. And so it's been like 5 or 6 months. So much has changed since the release of the first GPT, which was just a few months ago. So there's been GPT-3, that's when it was released. Now we're talking about GPT-4. Who knows when GPT-5 is landing? All of this happening in the space of less than 6 months. There is so much. A lot of people still haven't even tried what is ChatGPT yet. Yet there's so many other systems that have been built out of this very ecosystem of, you know, OpenAI. And then you ask yourself, if the world is moving this fast, the education system of go to school for 3-4 years to get a 1 degree, there is no way that can become a thing in the future. I mean, from where I sit and when you're looking at being futuristic, you ask yourself, if a young person is going to go to school and sit through school for 3 to 4 years, and the world is moving at this fast rate, and new information is coming to us yearly at 40%, like you've mentioned, and it's coming fast. Like, it's not asking our permission, like, should I come now? Should I wait till you graduate? It's not asking any of that. So the education system where the government is pouring so much money into students, and after 4 years they come out and they're sitting at home, it's not the solution as we can see it. You know, you are a tech person. You can look at where the future is going. So far, even right now, these degrees are not that valuable in the workplace anymore. Organizations are sort of dialing back from them. More organizations are more focusing on skills. What solutions can you bring to the table right now? This is really not about your degree anymore. So if the government keeps pouring money into an education system that is 100 years old and nothing has really changed, I think there needs to be change in terms of, you know, what you are saying.
I definitely agree. You know, I think one of the things that a lot of people forget is that technology is the key to inclusiveness in South Africa.
Right.
South Africa is the most unequal society in the whole world. And I wanted to just pause and think about a parent that has 2 children. And one of the children lives outside in the cold. And only the other child lives inside in the house. Now, in the house, there's air conditioning, there's warmth, there's a bed, there's food, yet the child still sleeps outside. Now, when we look at that parent, what would we define that parent as?
Something is wrong.
Wicked, right?
Right.
We'd say this parent is completely evil.
Right.
There's everything in the house, and your child sleeps outside. Something is wrong with the parent.
Right.
Now, that parent is the most unequal parent in the world because the one child is in luxury and the other child is freezing every night. That's South Africa. And our leadership is that parent because they're the ones that are sitting in the luxury. They're the ones that are sitting indoors in the warmth now during winter.
Right.
They're the ones who do not have load shedding. They're the ones whose electricity never gets cut in their houses. They're the ones with the generators.
Right.
Yet the majority, the other child is sleeping outside. Now, the way for us to fix this whole situation, the biggest equalizer that we have today is technology.
Absolutely.
Technology is the only thing that says you did not learn spelling and grammar when you were still in school.
Right.
So you cannot write a good supporting document to present your idea. But ChatGPT says, what is the idea? It edits the idea and it gives you the perfect landing. It says you do not learn how to create a perfect Instagram post to advertise your new business as a child who grew up in Alexandra, who did not go to the right schools. And you get a video editing app or a social media app with AI that says, I will create everything for you.
Right.
Perhaps you do not know how to write a book with a grammar that it needs for it to be published internationally.
Right.
And this AI bot says, I will help you edit it and fix it for you. Technology of the fourth industrial revolution. And this is the reason why in South Africa, it's fought the most.
Yeah.
People don't realize it. The reason why everybody's fighting against technology, the reason why they don't want it to come, the reason why they are fighting tooth and nail to make sure that Starlink by Elon Musk does not hit South Africa is because they know that they lose the power that they've had over the people for many years. The grip that they've had over the people is that they are poor and they'll always vote for us. They know nothing and they'll always vote for us.
Right.
But now with ChatGPT, that person in the villages with Starlink, they're able to go on the internet and say, is the ANC the best party to vote for?
Right.
And ChatGPT will come and give them answers.
Right.
So that's their biggest fear, to say, how do we make sure that these kids, we keep them under for as long as we can?
Right.
Because if we let them realize, if they see that there's AI that can help them design their own political party, that there's artificial intelligence that can show them how to mobilize, that there's apps that they can use to show them how to create videos, to create their resumes, to create businesses that are even profitable.
Absolutely.
They might wake up and say, actually, what is a government? What is this ANC doing for me if AI from a stranger can do much more? They might wake up and say, you know what, enough is enough. I'm not going to vote for these people. I'm going to choose a different path.
Right.
They might wake up and say, you know what, I'm actually going to revenge by making sure that I tell everybody around my community, my village, my town, that stop voting for these people because they're a detriment to our future.
Right.
And that's their biggest fear. And that's why they'll fight Starlink.
Right.
That's why they'll say, we'll make sure that no South African gets access to this Starlink because Elon Musk might give it to them for free.
Right.
And we've been in communication with Elon Musk. They're very open to making sure that communities that cannot afford in South Africa get free internet. And you know who's shaking? The government. Because they know that where will our profits come from?
Right.
Where will we make our money? If Elon Musk is giving people in the townships free internet, how will we continue to control the narratives that we control? Because these people will be able to go on the internet as they are saying, we will build houses in the townships. The person will say, hold on. ChatGPT tells me that you said this speech last year and nothing has changed.
Or 5 years ago.
Or 5 years ago and nothing has changed.
Right.
So that's their biggest fear. And even with that happening, some of us are still fighting. To say, hey, Elon, please don't give up on this. We know that our government is the reason why you're not in South Africa, but please don't give up on it. What do you need? We're here to fight for you and fight with you because we understand that until we defeat this enemy, which is our current government, anybody who's willing to help us is not an enemy, they're a friend.
You know, what you're saying is very profound, and I can see the passion and the vision you have for the country. But somehow I also feel that the barrier to breakthrough is not necessarily going to be the government per se, but also the people in terms of mindset. I said this back on the story I just told, the school that I spoke to recently. I heard many of the teachers instructing the children, don't use ChatGPT. And I was like, what? So I came up when it was my turn. I was like, I'm sorry, I have a different perspective on this. We are living in a digital era. And many of the jobs in the future, I mean, starting even from now, like before when computers became the thing, right? Employers changed the way they request or whatever they were expecting on CVs. And they will be like someone with computer knowledge. Computer knowledge is important for this role and all of that. That's where I see the future going in terms of ChatGPT. Knowledge of ChatGPT is important for this role. That's what is going to happen going forward. And if teachers are instructing our young kids, don't use ChatGPT, where are they ever going to learn the skill of interacting with AI systems? So when it was my turn, I told them, I'm sorry, you have your own perspective on this, but this is my perspective. The time for the children to learn ChatGPT using AI system, not just ChatGPT, there's so many different AI systems. Google just released theirs, Bard, right? But all of these needs for humans to interact with it by learning how to prompt, how to write properly. Because if you put in the wrong thing, it gives you the wrong answer as well. That is the power of artificial intelligence. It is open in a way that you have to interact with it to get the answers. So my question was, how are children going to graduate in future and be able to function in the world where organizations are looking for people with knowledge of ChatGPT, or people, the technical term for it is people with prompt engineering, people who are good at prompting. Prompting simply refers to your ability to talk to an AI system. If we are hiding this or sort of banning it, our kids to have access to it, that does not make sense at all. So as much as there's a government to be convinced about these things, I think that people on the ground themselves, they are still very much behind in terms of their mindset. I allow my kids to explore ChatGPT and other things. Even when they come home with assignments, I'm like, okay, this is how you do it, so that they get to learn how to use this system. Like, don't take it from the system and go submit it in school. Add your own creativity to it. This is the way you learn prompting. This is the way you do it. My daughter is 10, my son is 14. And I'm trying to let them know, interact with this system. Now, to the point where when they go to school and they're bragging with their friends about ChatGPT, their friends are like, what is ChatGPT? So like I was saying, so what plan do you have to be able to navigate this? As much as the vision is great, the people on the ground, if they are not receptive of the vision, how does that even become to be implemented?
Yeah, our hope really lies within young people. And it's a very sensitive thing, but young people in themselves, as much as, the flight of young people is groove in South Africa, the flight of young people is, TikTok and everything else, and podcasts and everything. Young people still have the best thinking ability in the country. And young people can analyze and see when things are going wrong. Young people are what we are fighting for. There's something that young people can see, and they've started to see it. Even if you look at our social media, our TikTok,
right?
They've started to see that the people that are very much against a rise are the older generation, because they can see that these people are fighting for the young people and they are not apologetic about it.
Right.
So we started to notice a trend where young people have started to support us, to say, listen, I'm going to tell my mom, we've got WhatsApp groups where we've got different branches,
right.
And people are forcing their moms to get in, to say, you will join this WhatsApp group and you will throw away your ANC shirt,
That's great.
And this is all happening because young people are starting to see that because we're seeing a young person who's our age fight for us, we too need to fight. Right. One of the things that young people said to me recently, I said to them, we're just talking a strategy session. And I said to them that, now that we're running for president, it's important that, we stop the Instagram lives, I stopped doing the vlogs. And they said, no. They said, we want a president who goes live on Instagram.
Of course.
They said, we want a president who goes live on TikTok.
Right.
They said, we can't still be thinking that the world must be run by the old way of doing things. When will we as young people have our own trends and cultures be able to influence society? And they said, but we don't want you to change a single thing. They said, we want a president that is aware of what we're doing so that we can support these things,
As you mentioned, stopping Instagram live, I'm like, what?
Because we were so used to the elderly that said, there was this old man that saw an interview of mine and I was wearing my Arise t-shirt, And I was going live and talking and everything. And he said, no, a president must be in a library. There must be books behind you. You must be formal. You can't just, in a t-shirt, take out a phone. That's not presidential, you know. So the older generation still believes in that very much. They still believe that a president should be, you know, a president should speak very slowly. And, you know, they still believe in these old ways of doing things, you know. One guy said to me, they said, I've been hearing you speak, but you don't use the word, I said, what do you mean? They said, every politician must say, you see with this technology, you know, with this chat GT, you know, we are looking into, you know. And they said, that's what we expect from a politician. And then they're like, but when you speak, we're taking notes, you know. And I said, that's the truth of what we should be experiencing.
Absolutely.
A leader should be somebody who can go into the future, see what exists and come back and make sure that we're fighting. One of the things that, you know, I was really touched about was when you go to Silicon Valley right now, everybody's talking AI. What AI startup are you part of? Which AI are you building? Is it image AI? Is it video AI? Is it, you know? But when you come to South Africa, it's load shedding. Every young person is discussing load shedding. And it's a real painful point because what we're not realizing is that we're staying behind. And I said to people that we need to get AI into vernac. We need AI to be in Zulu. So that a Zulu person can say, "Wecha GTP," and immediately it's able to give it in English. A vendor person can say, "Nikombre chat GTP into the business plan your ranks and immediately does the business plan in English." Where now people are saying, "But can your chat GTP now understand when somebody's speaking both Zulu and Xhosa at the same time?" You know, and that becomes the argument of the day, where we're now making sure that even our grandmothers are able to use chat GTP, and they're able to use it in their own language, and it's able to understand these prompts, and we're able to change this language and make sure that we too are included in this, and that's really where we want the thinking to start going to. So the young people are the ones that are fighting for us. And the young people are saying, we don't want food parcels. We want relevant information. We want ideas. We want policy frameworks. We want to hear what you're going to do. We want to see the partnerships of the companies you're going to be bringing. We want this information so we can work with it. So what are we doing as a political party? We're already talking to ChatGPT to say, do we have governmental systems? We're already talking to AI and blockchain systems to say, do we have these systems? Are they ready? How do we use them? We're already sitting down with the IEC saying young people want to vote online. We are already making sure that systems are in place. So when we do enter the government, it's no longer a conversation of, oh, but you said you're going to do it. It's a conversation of, all right, now that we're here, let's go. Starlink, beam. AI, beam. Let's go. Let these things function. Because our job is to make sure that we're preparing the minds of the people and preparing the people. And those that get it are with us. Those that get it are with us. You know, our videos, social media, we've seen so many people share our videos, not because we're talking about a dance move or a challenge, because we're basically talking about changing the country. And people are saying, every time I see this, I'm going to share it. And the reason why they're sharing it is because they're realizing that this has enough potential to change the country. And we're so grateful. We're so grateful that people are doing this because we've also realized that we cannot do it on our own. And everybody, you know, people like yourself that say, we have to have this on the podcast. We have to make sure that people watch this. These are people that are helping shape the country because every conversation shapes the country. Every single one builds a new mindset. It's that aha moment. It's that impartation. People usually speak and say, when you speak, you're so fired up. And I said, there's an impartation happening. Every young person listening is saying, that's my president. That's how I want to think. That's how things should be done. And that impartation that's happening can only happen when these things are shared from an inspired state. So whenever I speak, people said, you're so fired up. And I said, you don't understand what's going on. This is a spiritual thing where there's an awakening in every person that's watching. Because they say, wow, after he speaks, that mindset lingers on and immediately it catches on to say, oh, I agree. Not only must I agree, I must also share this video. Not only must I share, I must get my grandmother and granddad to say, hey, there's a new party. Forget about the old one. We're now doing a rise, you know. And we're seeing young people say to us, you know, on the day of election, there's young people that are saying, we're going back to fetch our grandmothers. We want to walk with them to the station to make sure they do the right thing, you know. And we laugh about it, but these are some of the things that we need. When people ask us and say, what do you need? Where do you need support? We're saying when you are voting, you can't forget the older generation.
Right.
Bring them with you. Because a lot of times the older generation, they think they are helping by voting for the ANC. But in actual fact, they're not doing young people a favor.
Absolutely.
They are killing young people.
Right.
So young people are starting to conscientize to say, hold on, this is what we're doing and this is how we need to be doing it. And one of the things that we've realized about the fourth industrial revolution is it's been able to change so many countries. You look at a country like Singapore, the changes they've experienced. I mean, there was, not to be rude, but allow me to say this, there's nothing special about Singapore. In fact, there's no wealth that they have on the ground. We as South Africans have much more than they could ever think of having. Yet with so little, they've changed everything through technology. And we're saying we have so much. It's time we also do the same.
Absolutely. That is really powerful what you've just said. And it reminds me of the concept that you mentioned about ChatGPT being in local languages. That's something that's already happening in India. As soon as ChatGPT was released in 2022, by the end of, I think, February or so, there were already stories. I actually heard it from the Microsoft CEO, and he was narrating the story of how the people in India, a farmer in India, in the local community, was able to put ChatGPT in a way that people in that community can have contact with the government of some sort, but using their local language, with the system that he built. So this is an opportunity for young South Africans as well, maybe young people across Africa as well, to be able to take this ecosystem by OpenAI, see how can we build this system so that it talks to our grannies in the language they can understand, just like our grannies are able to use WhatsApp. Who would have thought of? They may not be able to type, but sending voice notes and all of that, there can be other platforms built on top of ChatGPT that explain things to a granny in the township in a way that she understands with her local language per se. Maybe it might be voice, not necessarily text. It might be voice. For some of it might be video. All of these are possibilities that young people can build on. As they always say, Africa's problems are our biggest opportunities. So yes, we have problems, but these are also opportunities that we can use artificial intelligence to solve some of these problems. I hope some young people out there and within your team can be like, oh, I think we need to build ChatGPT in our local language. And there's so many languages in South Africa, right? So each of the local language should have their own section within ChatGPT.
Definitely. I think when you look at countries like Dubai, the one thing that Dubai did quite beautifully was the fact that they had a vision for the country.
Right.
You look at South Africa and you really look at what is the vision. Your heart almost wants to bleed.
Right.
In Dubai, they knew that, okay, cool, Abu Dhabi, we've got some oil in Abu Dhabi, but they knew that oil was never going to sustain them forever.
Right.
So they really sat down and said, how do we use our oil to build new industries? Can we build a country where the whole world will want to come and do business and also have fun? Tourism and a business sector. Can we use what we have to build a new industry that will bring us more money in the future? They used their oil to build them this new city. We have so many minerals.
Right.
What are we building? What's the vision? What are we building with what we've got? Because Dubai only had oil, by the way. We do have oil here in South Africa. We've got gold, platinum, vanadium, manganese, chromium. What are we building? And that becomes a very big issue because what they did in Dubai, they focused on 6 priority sectors with their oil. They looked at renewable energy, aviation, healthcare, transport, education, and water. And they went in there and they really strategically invested to make sure that those industries become what they are today. You go to Dubai, you look at any of these industries, perfect, because they were strategic in planning. What's our strategy in South Africa? Because this is a country that started the race. Remember when I started, I said that if you're running a race, a 400-meter race, this is a country that started way behind us. They caught up and they overtook.
Absolutely.
And they had much less than us. So that's one of the things that's a very big issue for me. And now they are now emphasizing innovation and research. That's become the new emphasis to say, let's innovate. Let's do more research. I went to the Museum of the Future there in Dubai. And that's the whole culture there. Everybody's saying, let's innovate. Let's do more. What are we doing in South Africa? What is the strategy
You know,
there?
speaking of Dubai, yes, Dubai is somewhere out there. Let's bring it back to Africa. And my best example that I always want to use is Rwanda. The way Rwanda is so forward thinking, you know, they had Vision 2020, which they accomplished almost all of the things that they had within that Vision 2020. Then they moved to Vision 2025. Then they moved to Vision 2030. These are the government implementing things that have to do with technology. They have decided we are going to be a knowledge economy. Okay, one, they don't have natural resources as much as South Africa. So they are building based on knowledge, digital knowledge economy, right? And now when you're looking at a country like South Africa, you mentioning that the government was not even willing to implement what the Fourth Industrial Revolution Commission presented to them. Where are we going as a society, right? Because this is Rwanda, a country in East Africa, implementing so much innovation, so many solutions, you know, that are African, so to say, solving the local problems with technology. I've been to Rwanda. It's amazing. Like the recent World Bank ease of doing business in Africa. I think Rwanda, what number is Rwanda? But South Africa is way behind Rwanda. I don't want to give wrong statistics, but South Africa is way behind Rwanda in terms of starting a business in Rwanda. It takes less than a day to get your business registered and off the ground in Rwanda. That is how fast their systems is. And everything is digitized. You can do it from the comfort of your home and get everything sent to you. When it comes to things like ID and whatever, it gets done. It is so fast because the point of innovation is to be able to get things faster and cheaper, you know, and easier. That's the whole point of innovation. So if the system currently right now, the system when it comes to immigration and the backlog at Home Affairs is something that has caught international attention, right? We are so developed in terms of development. You hear South Africa saying, okay, they are like higher than other African countries. But if a small country like Rwanda is getting the system functioning properly and South Africa is struggling to even get, you know, things at Home Affairs being done, like it's affecting international investment because there are stories I've heard of investors considering South Africa. Number one, it's the difficulties with load shedding. Number two, it is the fact that they can get the permits or business permits or personal permits on time, and they are considering other countries. Some of them, they think of Ghana, they think of maybe Nairobi, they think of Rwanda because processes are going faster. When you look at technology or innovation, if we implement it as the government, you see that some of these red tapes, digitization breaks it down. So when you're looking as an organization, as Arise South Africa, some of these solutions, you know, comparison, it's not just comparing South Africa with Dubai. Let's compare it with our own. A country like Rwanda, the things that they have achieved so far, why can't South Africa achieve? What is your solution to that? Or what are your thoughts in regards to that?
So firstly, I just want to correct something. We cannot compare ourselves to Rwanda because Rwanda is not at the level of South Africa.
Right.
Our level is Dubai and higher.
Right.
So that's why, you know, it's embarrassing to compare someone in matric to someone in grade 2.
Is that how you feel about Rwanda?
Because Rwanda, in terms of natural resources, is not where we are. Where we are in terms of natural resources is definitely matric. Where they are is definitely grade 2. So if you want to bring our comparison there, we're cheating.
But remember, we're not talking about natural resources. We're talking about innovation
and
the future of digital.
I agree with you, but the natural resources speaks to the money that you have.
Right.
Rwanda only has this amount of money to work with.
Oh, I see. Resources.
Whereas we have this amount of money to work with.
Right.
Now, if we come and compare ourselves to them, we're doing ourselves a big injustice because the problem is we were always the leader in South Africa. When you're in a race and you're now with your own weight group, you can't now go and want to play under 13 when you're now under 18.
But do we agree? Let me push back on that. But do we agree at this point, in spite of the fact that South Africa has more resources than Rwanda, do we agree to the point that Rwanda has certain things better than South Africa?
Definitely, we agree. Now, what we're saying is, let's go back to understanding where the issues lie in terms of digitization, right? In South Africa, corruption is a thread in government.
Right.
The country loses about 300 billion per year to corruption, right? Digitization kills corruption.
Of course.
Let's go to the policing system. You go and you open up a case in the police system, open up a case, everything is written, your docket is there.
Right.
If I go and open a case after you and I say, please prioritize my case, here's 100 Rand.
Right.
There's no digital system that will ever show that my case was not prioritized. Yours could even get lost. The docket is lost or the docket is stolen. There's a corrupt thread that helps everybody release the docket and make sure that they keep getting money. If I'm writing a digital ticket, immediately my digital camera snaps your high speed. I'm now writing a digital ticket based on that high speed.
Right.
I cannot fold that ticket and take a bribe because that digitization has caught it through. The issue of South Africa is not that we don't want to digitize or we don't know how to digitize. We told the government to digitize as members of the Fourth Industrial Revolution Commission. The problem is digitization steals that 300 billion that they are enjoying every year for corruption. So the reason why the government is not digitizing their systems is corruption.
Yeah.
We've stopped telling the truth about things. It's corruption. It's the fact that they want to be able to pull out your paper.
Right.
They want to be able to take a bribe when you're driving. They want to be able to do all these things because of corruption.
Right.
It's not because the systems are not available.
Right.
That's the reason they don't want Starlink to come to South Africa because they know that if every government institution has internet, when are they going to say the system is offline? By the way, every time the system is offline, there's someone deployed to come and put it back online. Check the amounts of those tenders.
Right.
So the fabric of South African government is corruption and digitization fights corruption. How are we going to eat if the system is no longer going offline?
That's such a powerful statement. Digitization fights corruption. I'm still going to go back to Rwanda. Sorry. In South Africa, when the whole electricity load shedding thing became so bad, they built an app where you can log in and see which areas, which days in your areas, and from what time to what time you're not going to have electricity. I log on that app on a daily because I need to plan my work around when I have electricity and when it's going to go off. So that is the solution the government provided for the people. Okay.
No. That is a business solution. The government did not provide an app. The government releases emails. And this company takes those emails and puts it on an app.
I thought it was a government's app.
No,
okay.
The government
By
did
the way,
not
this is where I was
develop the
going
app.
with that whole app story, right? So anyway, we have that currently. It's a business, but that's what South Africa has to check which days and which times there will be no electricity. Something like that is similar, but is provided by the government in Rwanda, where if any government officials were to ever ask you, as a citizen, like this is an app open to the citizen, if any government official were ever to ask you for a bribe, for something that you're supposed to get for free, you just log in on that app
You
report it anonymously. I think that's the word.
Yes.
Right? That's how it's done in Rwanda. They're not perfect, of course. There's still corruption in almost every country, but they are the least corrupted nation in Africa for that reason. So these are digital systems that citizens can use. For example, if you were to go apply, I don't know, maybe for a birth certificate of your child, and you know that this thing is supposed to come out the same day, and there's someone is trying to say, okay, give me 100 Rand, for example, and I will release it. I don't know, however it works there, things like that. A citizen has the right to log in with the name of the employee and explain this, what happened, which city they were or which township it happened, and all of that. And the government picks it up and follow up with what happened. So every citizen in Rwanda is aware of that app and they uses it. Why can't something similar be applied in South Africa?
It's the same issue we've got, corruption. The reason why many systems in South Africa don't work is because there are people who benefit from those systems. Even if you look at load shedding, a simple thing like electricity, there are people who are benefiting from that electricity not working. And the problem is, because those people saw that the head of the country was found with funds in his couch, unexplainable, millions of dollars, it flows from the head straight down. There's no disciplinarian who can say stop it, because all of them from the top are in the same thing. Because if you are found with dollars in your couch that you could not explain, and you tell me to not collect my own cash as bribes, I look at you and I say, can you start by explaining yours? So we have a leader that cannot discipline the people because the leader themselves was found in an ill-disciplined way. And as a result of that, the big problem continues. To say everybody who submits under that leader will be ill-disciplined because things flow from the head. That's how things work. If you're a spiritual person, you understand that your spiritual covering will dictate how your life continues. That's how things flow. So things are flowing from the rotten head and they're flowing down. And what we're seeing everywhere else is that it's rot. It's rot. It's rot. Because there cannot be any discipline if you're found with your pants down and you cannot explain why they were down.
Of course.
Because the next person you want to discipline will say, I helped you cover up your pants.
Right.
And as a result of that, we're seeing that rot continue. And that's why it's important to take a young person who has no interest in any of those things, but has interest in technology, to run and make sure that our technology is right. Because through our technology being right, our country will become right.
Absolutely. That is really amazing. You know, you've spoken so much about the young people, which is very fascinating. The country is made of more young people than older people. But nonetheless, if we take on the young people and run with, the digital divide is still not solved. The older people need to be able to function in a government, in a digital government. What are your plans to be able to make sure that the old granny understands how the digital system works? If the government becomes digital and everything becomes digital, how are we going to take our grannies and our older people along?
So the interesting thing for me has been the stats coming out from the network providers.
Right.
Because I think along the way, we've come to believe a lie.
Right.
And this lie is Africans don't know how to interact with technology. Right. And when you look at the network providers, the Vodacom, the MTNs, the Cell Cs, etc., their profits come from the poor. It is the granny who is giving them the profits because granny watches everybody's WhatsApp status. She has enough time to page through it.
Right.
Granny also goes through this thing called Facebook and she watches what's going on because
TikTok
she has time.
And all of that.
So the truth of the matter is, it's not a matter of they are left out. It's more a matter of how do we tailor solutions to them.
Right.
That's the only big thing.
Right.
So it's now about how do you scale WhatsApp to a version that will tailor solutions to them.
Right.
Meaning on WhatsApp, they are able to talk to their nurse and schedule their day of appointment.
Wow.
Meaning on WhatsApp, they are now able to find out how far their pension is or whatever the case is. You know, so it's about scaling the solutions to provide to them. But this lie that our elderly grandmothers are not able to use technology, you can ask around.
Right.
It's the young children that are saying, who taught my mom how to use TikTok? Because it wasn't me. And the moms are saying, oh, all our friends are using this thing, so we all now have it.
I'm going to push a bit back on what you've just said, because if you go by that logic, then we can also say old people in government don't have a problem of not using technology.
Of course they don't. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah. The issue is that they're evil to make sure that it doesn't happen. You're very right, because remember, here's the narrative that a lot of people forget, right? The elderly people in government, as much as we say that they are not advanced technologically, it does not mean that they don't know about technology. They have advisors. That's why they're able to call someone and say, change my WhatsApp picture, please. They have advisors that tell them every day, this is where the world is going. This is what's supposed to be happening. They have people that tell them on the daily basis. The truth is they don't listen. So the elderly people know that the world has changed, that the young people should be leading. They know this.
I laugh every time I hear you give that narrative of you calling someone to change their WhatsApp picture, right? Which is funny, you know, it's hilarious, but at the same time, it speaks to how some of the technological solutions could be implemented. They don't necessarily have to do it. If you can call someone to change your WhatsApp picture, then you can be able to also call someone, okay, how do we solve this as a government? You see, I'm older, you are the younger person. Give us technological solutions to implement to help our grannies in the location, in the townships, or to help our young people. It therefore means that if they can listen, even to the younger generation, with innovative ideas, the government will be fine.
Definitely. But also we must remember that the reason why we're advocating for young people is the gap. it's the gap. We must never forget that there's a gap to where the rest of the world is and where we are.
Right.
You need a sprinter.
Right.
If there's a gap in a race, any athlete will tell you, I need a sprinter who's going to close the gap.
Absolutely.
Then we continue with the race.
Right.
So what we're saying is that sprinter is not them. That sprinter is young people.
Absolutely.
Let's get the sprinters on board.
Completely agreed. When you mentioned earlier, when I was giving the example, thinking that the government built the app that is helping us know when electricity is off, one of the things that you mentioned is they sent email. Was that effective? I mean, is that an effective strategy from the government?
Definitely not. And I think, there was a young entrepreneur that, well, he's not that young, but he's young, that saw that as a problem. And that app is called Eskomse Push.
Right.
And he wanted to call it Eskomse Boost as a swear word to the government to say, how dare you, Eskom, put us in this position? And it's now called Eskomse Push.
Oh.
And that app was that young person who created a business to say, whenever they release these emails, I'm going to take them forth and put them into the app, and the app will be able to keep track of what's going on. So everybody looks at that app. Now, what the government then did is they said, because we have an issue, people don't look at emails, but they're looking at the app.
Yeah.
Let's stop telling them the truth. So now Eskom now lies about the stages because they're afraid that everybody's seeing what they are doing. And as a result of that, it will register in the people's mind psychologically that this is failure. So they now say you're in stage 6. Meanwhile, you're in stage 10. You're in stage 11. Meanwhile, we're approaching a blackout. So there's that rhetoric of also playing around with South Africans. And it's the government basically saying they're stupid enough they won't be able to tell. And that's the nature of our government, that it treats our people as idiots to say, oh no, we can push them. We can do much more, And it's the same nature that Hitler used, by the way, to rule in his day. He kept stretching them with unreasonable demands, knowing that human beings are vulnerable people.
Right.
And he took advantage to the point where it had to take the whole international community to say, what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
But he never stopped. So we're saying, here we have an enemy of the people. We need to put an end to them in 2024 before they stretch us more. Because what they are going to do after this, if they win again, they're going to realize that human beings can take it. We gave them COVID, we gave them load shedding, we dug graves for them. Unemployment was at a high, there were rapes, there were murders, and they voted for us. Then they'll say, I wonder what else we can do, and let them vote for us. Because remember, Hitler kept on doing that to his people. Every time he gained more power, he kept becoming more unreasonable. More, because he realized that human beings are stupid to keep voting for the same thing, even though they're not getting the results. And that's what the government has been doing. They've been realizing that, these people, we can keep stage 1. Okay, there's no riot. Stage 2, load shedding. Okay, they're not burning down the streets. Stage 3, okay, they're still calm. Stage 4, they're only creating Twitter memes. Stage 5, they're still just chatting about it. Stage 6, nothing's happening. Up until they get to blackout stage, because to them, they're aware that human beings can stretch, can stretch. And the worst part about this all is that just before elections, they bring back electricity, and human beings are quickly to forget. So what we're doing is, now that we are here, we need to make sure that we do not forget. We can't afford to forget, because the moment we forget, they're going to come back into power and they're going to stretch us even more.
As we draw to the conclusion of our conversation, I have 2 things, as we conclude. One is governments always promises, or should I say politicians, promises jobs to the masses. We're going to create this number of jobs. We're going to do this, going to do that. Is that also your approach as you're looking to get in, like, okay, this is how many jobs we are going to provide for the youth? Because let's be honest, the biggest issue for many young people, or for many South Africans today, there are 2 things: this whole load shedding thing and jobs and employment, right? So what is your practical solution to that? In terms of you're pushing digitization and artificial intelligence, we also know on one hand how disruptive these technologies are and how much they are reducing manpower when it comes to work. So are you promising young people jobs, or are you promising young people opportunities? Which one is it? Secondly, what are the practical solutions in terms of electricity? Like, okay, as Arise, these are the solutions. If we're put in power, we implement to solve this problem of electricity.
Thank you. So the first thing first is that we promise lifelong learning and we promise financial incentive for that. So you will be paid based on what you learn. So even though you're unemployed, just by you learning, you get paid. So we're going to pop up a whole lot of doctors in blockchain technology, doctors in artificial intelligence, doctors. Every young person will be paid to learn. Okay. The same funds we were using for this huge, excessive education spending that we've been doing, we're going to drive most of that financial incentive to make sure that they learn. Right. In the learning process, many will drop out and go and work because the money they're getting paid will be less than what Jobs International will want them. So we're going to create an environment here where programmers are getting paid. Just by you learning how to program, you get a certain amount lifelong forever. Now, people used to say, but that's unsustainable. We saw the 350s rolling out. We saw them. We know that there's money in this country. We know where the money sits. So we're going to pay you just to learn. So in our rulership, it's going to be, are you educated? And are you educated in the relevant fields? And in the relevant fields, you're okay. So we're going to have a whole lot of young people going back to, and not to these universities and these FET colleges that don't know what they're teaching. They are going back to new revamped educational systems where, oh, the thing you studied does not have any money in it. How do you know? Because the government is not paying you for it. But there are programs that you can study that do have funds. And our incentive is to say, you need to be paid for the fact that you have a certain type of understanding that is aligned with the way we're going. And that's what we're going to be doing.
Are these going to be like 3-year sort of programs?
No, they're going to be based on the skill output that we put out there. Yeah. Okay. So we're really going to make sure that international companies are forced to come to South Africa because the skills are here. That's where the skills are going to be found. Digital skills are here.
Future of work skills.
So a lot of that is going to be happening. Now, when it comes to electricity, for us, it's a very simple thing. Electricity is available in many different forms. Solar, oil, gas. For us, it's just infrastructure to make sure that it's available. We've got enough gas in South Africa to power South Africa for the next 100 years, enough coal to power South Africa for the next 100 years, enough sun to power South Africa we have everything. The problem is the infrastructure is not there. And the reason the infrastructure is not there is because there's certain people that are driving an agenda to make sure that their infrastructure exists. So what we're going to fight for is that the infrastructure is there for everybody to be able to get access to all of this in a very easy and simple way. Once infrastructure is there, it's a buffet. Are you powered by gas? Are you powered by sun? Are you powered by oil? Are you powered by coal? It's a buffet. And when you create an open market, what happens? The best solutions thrive.
Innovation thrives as well.
Innovation thrives,
Absolutely.
So that's what we're doing.
That's really powerful. What are your last words to the people listening?
Our last words are for those people that judge us and think that we're cocky and, our ideas are very far-fetched and it's too much.
Right.
Our words to them is, we for many years have had people that were not cocky.
Right.
That did not have ideas. Where did that end us?
Yeah.
What did we get by being humble, truth and reconciliation, the Constitution? What have we gotten?
Right.
Because we've had that. What we have not had in Africa is people that were willing to say, we believe in this thing, we are fighting for it, we are doing it, and it's a new thing.
Right.
We haven't had new systems. I suppose us giving new systems a chance is a better thing for us to do than sticking with the old systems that have proven to us over the years that what they've brought us is just heartache. Let's give the new systems a chance. Let's give the young people a chance. Let's give the born-frees a chance. Let's see what they can do and let's judge them after having given them a chance. Because you cannot truly judge us if we haven't had the platform to prove what we're able to do.
Right. When they announced the Minister of Electricity, I actually thought it was just a joke. I didn't think it would happen for real. However, as a government, as the president of Arise, you're looking, let me give you a favorite example, Dubai. I think Dubai has the Minister of Artificial Intelligence. If it's not Dubai, I think it's another country.
Yeah, Dubai.
It's Dubai, right? And a Minister of Artificial Intelligence. Do you, within your cabinet, if you are voted in, seem to replicate? Do you intend to replicate some of what, because you give Dubai as example a lot, do you intend to replicate many of the things that are happening, in Dubai, where your cabinet, they will have a Minister of
Definitely.
artificial intelligence. I will also suggest a futuristic minister.
Of course, yeah.
Because now there are jobs in there are titles where people have a futurist, and organizations are looking for a futurist. Okay, come and look into the future, how technology is changing our particular industry, this particular industry or this particular organization. In future, let's say 5 years from now, how do we need to change? How do we need to move? Things like that. So I believe these are things that any new government should be thinking about. A futuristic minister, artificial intelligence minister, maybe who knows, blockchain minister, or they just put one person as a tech minister or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is important. Otherwise, there is no survivor in this digital age without being backed by digitization of technology systems.
Definitely.
Right.
So that's something we're definitely going to do. Minister of Blockchain Technology,
Right.
Minister of Artificial Intelligence, Minister of 3D Printing.
Right.
We're definitely going to have all of these.
And I suppose when they will come, people will also laugh or be taken by surprise, like we were all making memes about the Minister of Electricity.
Yeah, but I think
we didn't think it was real.
Yeah,
there were so many memes around.
When it does come, I think that the one thing that people will appreciate is that we are thinking correctly.
Right, of course.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that people appreciate, because when you look at the Minister of Electricity and you look at the Minister of Energy,
right.
The thinking is the wrong thing. Yeah, the thinking is very wrong.
And
so when they look at us,
thing?
Yeah, I think it is the same thing, but also remember, everybody's thinking that electricity is not energy. Whereas we need to understand that electricity is an energy source. It's energy we're talking about.
Yeah.
And energy can be transmitted in many different ways. There's hydrogen.
Right.
There's gas.
Right.
There's oil. So to single out one is an issue.
Yeah.
Very big issue. Yeah.
And the funding to go for that alone, that particular new minister. Anyway, a conversation for another day. Thank you so much for coming. It's been amazing talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for this platform. I mean, the fact that you're part of those in Africa that are conscientizing people about the digital revolution, really important. So thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.